It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The U.S. Marine Corps posted an official notice this week that ICE agents would be stationed at the gates of Parris Island to run ID checks on families coming to celebrate the graduation of America's newest Marines from boot camp. The Department of Homeland Security called the story fake news, but it's from an official Marine Corps press release. Think about the message this sends to America's immigrant families, especially those who have chosen to risk everything for the country they love by serving in uniform. The good news is that the backlash to this announcement was swift and severe. And while DHS tried to attribute it to a miscommunication, the whole saga exposed just how zealous the Trump administration has been in its persecution of law-abiding immigrants, even those whose family members are joining the military. It really does feel sometimes like the cruelty is the point. I spoke with Kris Goldsmith about this. He's an enlisted Army vet and the founder of Veterans Fighting Fascism, and it was actually his rant on TikTok that tipped me off to this story. Here's a short clip from that. Our conversation is right after.
That's what the Trump administration is doing right now. They have ICE posted at military training facilities, screening family members of graduates of basic training and boot camp to check their papers. Folks, irony is fucking dead because we've got Nazi wannabe little fucking weasels like Stephen Miller directing policy. And among his priorities is to go after the families of service members who are probably about to deploy in some stupid war that Donald Trump started.
Kris, thanks for joining us today. It feels like the zealousness of this administration, well, it knows no bounds, but it's also getting in its own way. They seem to have a massive blind spot when it comes to PR and the inability to perceive the public reaction to some of their policies. The latest example being the stationing of ICE agents outside Parris Island during Marine Corps boot camp graduation to assist with screening people coming on base who might be undocumented. There simply to congratulate America's newest Marines, family members of these boot camp graduates. And the fact that the administration thinks that this would not blow up, having ICE agents there, is just indicative of either their massive blind spot or the zealotry that ignores what the public thinks.
I think one of the primary problems here is that Pete Hegseth, as Secretary of Defense, he doesn't recognize that not everyone in the military shares his views. And he doesn't recognize that the things that he is doing, as, you know, a Fox News weekend host turned Secretary of Defense, is not good for the morale of the force. And that is not just, you know, for service members who are, you know, getting their citizenship in part through service, you know, building their life as an American through military service, more than the vast majority of Americans will ever do, right? But he thinks that all of these stunts are not going to blow up in his face. And at a time when young people who are serving today, who are joining today, well into the Trump era, in the Trump, the second Trump administration, they know they're going to war. And to have in the back of their minds, maybe I shouldn't invite my parents to come celebrate my graduation with me because they might get deported. That's really bad for morale. And I don't think that I'm speaking out of turn when I say that Pete Hegseth, Stephen Miller, Mark Wayne Mullen, Donald Trump are creating insider threats. You know, we used to be kind of concerned, and I've spent years talking about insider threats like Christian nationalists and all of these other extremist organizations. The FBI for years has been concerned about infiltration by, you know, Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all of that. But now we've got a Christian nationalist who's trying to run the military as a Christian nationalist enterprise and a white nationalist enterprise, but he doesn't recognize that the United States military is the most diverse workforce on the planet. And his attempts to impose this white Christian nationalist theology on the entire force is going to damage our national security for a generation, if not more.
Yeah, well, and it's bad Christian theology at that. I want to offer as Exhibit A this prayer that Pete Hegseth offered at a Pentagon prayer service inside the Pentagon with members in uniform in attendance. Nothing wrong with being a person of faith in the military, with praying in uniform. But when the Secretary of Defense offers this kind of prayer from behind a podium with the seal of the Department of Defense on it, it should set off alarm bells. Here it is.
Behold now the wicked who rise against your justice and the peace of the righteous. Snap the rod of the oppressor, frustrate the wicked plans, and break the teeth of the ungodly. By the blast of your anger, let the evil perish. Let their bulls go down to slaughter, for their day has come, the time of their punishment. Pour out your wrath upon those who plot vain things and blow them away like chaff before the wind. Let every round find its mark against the enemies of righteousness and our great nation. Give them wisdom in every decision, endurance for the trial ahead, unbreakable unity, and overwhelming violence of action against those who deserve no mercy. We ask these things with bold confidence in the mighty and powerful name of Jesus Christ, King over all kings, and amen.
Hey everyone, it's Ken. I've got another amazing writing retreat to share with you. It just opened up and it sounds incredible. It's in the City of Lights, Paris, France, and it's hosted by two award-winning writing coaches, Brandy Larson and Anne-Marie Kelly. Just imagine writing in a place like this. Telling stories is what makes us human, and we all have those stories in our pockets about love and loss, joy and grief. Let Brandy and Anne-Marie help you pen your stories on the page. You'll gather each morning in an historic cafe, museum, bookstore, or garden to focus on craft and storytelling. And afternoons will be spent soaking in the culture, sights, and rich literary history of one of the world's most beautiful cities. This once-in-a-lifetime retreat is for writers of all ages and experiences who long to build community, search for answers, and dismantle the roadblocks that stand in our way. Anne-Marie and Brandy practice writing as a form of healing. And don't we all need that right now? If you want to write beautiful prose in a beautiful place, join Anne-Marie and Brandy in Paris this summer. No more excuses. This world-class coaching team will help you put your stories on paper in an amazing setting. Join them. Click the link in the show notes to learn more. Kris, one of the things Pete Hegseth appears to fail to realize is that something like 30% of the military identifies as non-Christian, and of the remainder, I would bet the majority aren't going to Sunday school or church every Sunday. This appeal to Christian nationalism, really this idea of marching into war with the banner of Christ behind you, is not only bad from a theological perspective, it's anti-Christian. In fact, it's, as you pointed out, really demoralizing to a huge segment of the American military. There's probably less than 1 in 10 people I served with who would hear a prayer like that and say, let's go kill some bad guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had that personal experience. I talked about it in one of the episodes for On Offense on Valor Media Network with Tim Whitaker, an expert in Christian nationalism, who came out of the theocratic Christian nationalist world and is kind of giving us an inside view.
Yeah,
and I talked about what it was like to be a young soldier, 19 years old, deployed to Iraq with a chaplain in my unit who was what I now understand to be a Christian nationalist. He was using, while we were in Iraq, terms like crusade and mission from God. It was a mission from the commander-in-chief, President George W. Bush. It wasn't a mission from God that I was on. And I remember thinking about how stupid it was when we were being provocative. My battalion commander at 315 Infantry used to play AC/DC on the loudspeakers every time that the mosques would play their prayers. And I remember at 19 years old being at least wise enough to think like, man, this is This is probably going to blow back on us. This is probably going to be interpreted as really provocative. And you know what? Sadr City I was lucky during my deployment. But after we left, a lot of Americans died in Sadr City. And I can't help but think that Christian nationalist provocation, this like thumb in the eye of the dominant religion in the place that we were occupying, that wasn't the cause of the deaths and injuries of Americans. So for Pete Hegseth and everyone around him to frame everything that we are doing and this new unnecessary, completely bullshit war in Iran as this like God ordained mission, we're going to be paying for that for a long time. Americans will die because of the stupid framing that these guys are engaging in.
Well, that context is especially important. It's bad enough to have that Christian nationalist zeal in peacetime, but when you are at war, regardless of what they want to call it, we are at war with a Shiite Muslim nation of 93 million people, and our Secretary of Defense is framing it as a holy war. That's not going to end well.
Yeah. And what sucks is that there is no justice for this type of thing. Like, maybe Pete Hegseth will be charged for war crimes. Maybe, Donald Trump and all the rest will be held accountable. But there's no proportionality. There's no proportionality in holding these people accountable for the damage that they are doing to our national security currently, and the damage that will compound over time, over decades, over the next generation. There just is no way to hold these people accountable in a proportional way, because the impact of their ignorance and of their belief that this is a mission from God, we're all going to pay for it. Countless human beings, not just Americans, are going to be paying for their hubris. And there is no, I don't like coming up with problems that don't have solutions that I can suggest. Like, there just is no way to hold these people accountable in a way that matches the crime.
Yeah, at least not in this life. I think what makes Pete Hegseth especially dangerous is that he's a true zealot. You get the impression from people like Kristi Noem or, even J.D. Vance to some degree that they'll wear whatever skin suits them for the moment. But as a recent convert, Pete Hegseth, he fits the description of there's no zealot like the convert. Mm-hmm. And it feels like he's somehow making up for his past indiscretions and his past sinfulness in his eyes by going to the wall when it comes to this Christian nationalist stuff.
Yeah. And I think this is really common in American conservatism. We have seen, scandals about, GOP politicians who are really harsh on the LGBTQ community. And then a scandal comes out that shows that they are part of that community, right? It's this self-hatred. I think that you're right. I think that Pete Hegseth recognizes that he is a piece of shit and he is trying to redeem himself by doing the only thing that he knows, which is hurting people. So rather than get drunk and try to go on stage with a dancer, which he has done, while working for a veterans organization, and that's how he spent nonprofit dollars, and being disgusting to his employees or taking advantage of a subordinate at work, all of things that he has done. He's still doing the same thing. He's abusing people. He is an abuser. Now he's just doing it with the veneer of Christianity. So he can say, oh, this is my religion, to hurt people in this way, to kill people in this way. And he gets a pass. He gets a pass from a lot of Americans because they say, oh, well, he's clearly redeemed because this fits my version of theology.
That was an excerpt of my conversation with Kris Goldsmith. The full interview is on my Substack page. The link is in the show notes. Thanks.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.